How's it going, everybody? My name is DeMarco, and welcome to my review of Hi-Fi Rush, a game that has received near universal praise across the interwebs for having fun gameplay, great characters, good writings, a beautiful art style, and I'm happy to say that it's true. All of it.
Thought it was a bunch of mumbo-jumbo. Crazy thing is, it's true. All of it.
Hi-Fi Rush is one of the greatest surprises that I have had in a long time. And it's coming from Tango Gameworks, the studio behind The Evil Within and Ghostwire Tokyo. Yeah, nobody saw this coming. And then you compound that with its shadow release just dropping the day of the developer direct. And you have a recipe for one of the best games that I have played in a very long time. Its story is good, its art style is beautiful, its music is awesome, the combat is fun, the characters are great, and genuinely, I think that Tango Gameworks has knocked it out of the park with Hi-Fi Rush. Hi-Fi Rush. Alright, gonna need a weapon, so let's see what we got here. Okay, alright, just... I think we're kind of done with bows anyway. All right, how about this one? We got what's this? Baton? 2 corporate. It's perfect. Oh, yes, this is the one. This is it. Yeah. Let's jump in, starting with the story. Hi-Fi Rush, all things considered, does have a very simple story, but it's its characters and its environment and the space that the game takes place in that makes it so special and amplifies this story, making it really fun to play through. You, Chai, get invited to be part of the Armstrong program through a company called Vandalay. Unfortunately, through the process going wrong, you get an MP3 player that's merged with your body and you become a defect, and now you are on the run throughout Vandalay campus trying to escape. And Vandalay is an area that's filled to the brim with handcrafted content, tons of references and Easter eggs, and just a whole plethora of personality.
Chai, is it?
Yep.
Profession, rockstar?
Future rockstar.
From hysterical maintenance bots that'll start running around screaming, "Why me? Did I do something wrong?" if you hit them, to the lazy Irishman sweeper bot that talks about the good old days that he was working, to, like I said in the beginning of this review, Sebastian Sebastian from The Evil Within, serving as the HR department.
This is what it comes to. Hiding what we want in caves, away from those who want it. Not only that, but making them struggle to earn it. In this case, even destroying. Things need to change. We need to stop hiding our rewards.
But what is a reward if it is not earned?
You're right, little guy. Like you always are. Maybe this is the way to go. The struggle makes us stronger. A new pitch. Make rewards even harder to earn. That sweat. Those tears. That makes the cake even sweeter.
Every single section of this game has a beautiful amount of detail, and John Johannes, the game director here, has even gone out of his way to say that that absolutely is the case. Every single rock and mountain and environmental aspect is placed there with intention. The story plays out as you go through each of the different villains in different houses of corporate, from security to R&D to production, all of them forming this board, and you have to take each of them down in order to escape from Vandalay.
Marketing delivered.
Don't pin it on Rekka!
Tell that grandstander Zanzo in R&D.
We need people.
Each of these villains and antagonists is drastically different from one another, showcasing incredibly unique personalities, and the environments that you get to trek through on your way to lead up to these characters is each vibrant and distinct and unique, making every single level that you play through feel incredibly special. You don't feel as though you're trekking through the same hallways that you did 3 bosses ago. And that's a wonderful feeling because you're always curious about what the next encounter is going to bring. And Hi-Fi Rush always manages to up the factor by 3 every single time you pass into a new environment. It does so unbelievably well. And I have to say, one of the things that Hi-Fi Rush does so great is that it's very self-aware. It knows exactly what it is. It knows the style of humor it's going for.
Lifter's running a bit late. I'm sure they'll be here.
And like a well-crafted, I was gonna say James Gunn film, but I think not everybody is a fan of James Gunn. It knows what it's trying to be, and it executes that flawlessly. From the character interactions that you have, to the characters that you meet, to the villains that you go up against, each has varying levels of eccentricity that I adored my entire time. In fact, Zanzo, one of the villains that you come across, is one of my favorites.
Quality and quantity. I want this bigger.
Along the course of the game, you yourself will come across your own team of misfits that become more like family. For what is realistically a very simple premise, you, the underdog, not quite a hero, but becoming one, teams up with this other group to take down the evil corporation Vandalay. It manages to do it with such endearing charm because of its supporting cast, because of the world that it takes place in, and due to the joy and humor that the main character that you play as, Chai, brings to the table. And it separates itself from other similar games that try to do the same thing. Especially when these characters that end up joining your squad have their own benefits, not just in terms of story or not just having an interesting history that they've come to the table with, but because they do assist you in valuable ways, helping you to navigate through levels, progress through the game, and even usable during combat situations as these sort of buddy team-up moves. It does help a lot to bring tons of authenticity and tons of care to these other people, because they're not just there for you to interact with, they actually play a vital role to your success. Chai himself is pretty important. He's a lovable goofball.
Chai! Chai!
Is this the guy?
You want an autograph?
No.
I'll get you an autograph. Thank you.
He messes up a lot of things, but when stuff gets serious, he's ready to step up to the plate. He's not perfect. He makes a ton of mistakes throughout the games, but it's done in a charming way, not sort of an annoying way where you get frustrated with the character. He's not making such stupid mistakes that you just want to facepalm and shove his head into the wall, or your head through your monitor, I guess.
Only you wouldn't find this suspicious. The point is, they can, and I need to stop that.
Well, I wish you good luck.
Chai.
But I have no idea how to get off this island and feel a little responsible for messing things up.
Great.
He's does it with a lot of charm, and of course with that he's able to have a great rapport with the other characters that are chiming in through their comms and their radios to communicate with them. And then of course I haven't mentioned 808, the adorable cat that follows you around. He's great. So story, it has it all: anime charm, over-the-top wit, fantastic set pieces, beautiful moments, and tons of great characters. But what about the gameplay itself? Well, Hi-Fi Rush is a rhythm action game. Tons of Japanese influence here, which is something that a lot of people say Xbox desperately needed. I typically am not one. I very much prefer Western AAA RPGs, but I was pleasantly delighted by everything in Hi-Fi Rush when it came to its combat and its gameplay. During combat, you'll have to mash attacks, very simply X or Y, and time those to the beat. Now, if you're not good or you just don't have a great rhythm, that's perfectly fine. I thankfully am pretty good with that kind of thing. I just have an ear for it, but they have plenty of accessibility options if you struggle with it a little bit. Even things such as Chai always attacks on the beat, which means that you could just see when the last attack ends and then press the button for the subsequent one. It helps you if you're a visual player. If you're an audio and you could do it that way, you also can play just using and tapping yourself to the rhythm. That's perfectly fine. Beyond that, objects in the environment bop to the beat. Once Chai was infused with this music player, everything around him, including the environment, himself, and the enemy attacks, all start moving to this beat. So if you're able to stop focusing as much on the music and you're able to look around in your environment, you might even find yourself becoming a better player because you just instinctually start to learn throughout the game this is how you should pace things. And what I loved about the combat too, other than simply being fun, was the way that the upgrades system works. So throughout the story, you will be able to return back to your home base, purchase new combos, purchase new upgrades for Chai to assist him in battle. And what this helps to do is provide a very natural sense of progression during the combat. So before, when you first start off, you'll be limited to just pressing XXX or YYY or maybe XXY. But throughout the game, you'll build up those combats. You could do XXXY, XYXY, right? And so if you do happen to find yourself button mashing a little bit and you're just trying to hit the buttons that feel really cool because you want to throw in the heavy attack or now you want to do a couple light swings, that's how I played. But what it allowed me to do is throughout the story, because I was getting these new combos, I felt as though, like Chai was in the game, getting stronger and more powerful, I was getting better as a player as well, because now what at first was just random button inputs are amounting to valuable high damage combos that not only look badass but make me feel awesome as well. Now, I played Hi-Fi Rush on the hardest difficulty, and let me tell you, do not let its charming visual style catch you off guard. This game can be challenging, and I died a lot throughout my gameplay. Hi-Fi Rush will throw a lot of enemies at you at once, especially later on in the game. For example, one that is like this hybrid motorcycle guy, kind of like from the Progressive commercials, and he'll roam around throwing barriers around his allies, which means that you need to summon your ally Peppermint to do a small attack on them to break down the shields so you can then engage them. Other enemy types might require to use your companion Macaron in order to break down their shields so that you can actually start attacking them. And then of course their movesets do change depending on how you interact with certain enemies, which keeps you on your toes even more. There's a great hybrid of ranged enemies to melee enemies to ones that will just straight up charge you to others that serve as support and buff their allies. It makes for very diverse and interesting combat scenarios that will keep you on your toes. But the one good thing that Hi-Fi Rush does incredibly well, which I haven't seen a lot of people talk about, is the pacing at which it introduces you to each of these new mechanics. As you go throughout the game in Hi-Fi Rush, there's going to be these segments where you meet a tutorial bot or a hint bot. And not only is he designed really cleverly where you could actually see the soda cans inside if you pan the camera a certain way, it's actually pretty cool. A lot of people have pointed it out on Twitter. But these are sort of segments where you learn a new skill and then you start gradually seeing that implemented more and more. You'll fight a new enemy type and it will just be that one enemy type, so you learn how to combat them, what you should do, its weaknesses, its strengths, how to get the advantage during combat, and then you'll pursue them in other scenarios. Never during my time playing Hi-Fi Rush did I feel as though I was just thrown into something that I couldn't handle. It always felt as though it was a matter of skill and that I just simply needed to get good. And that's a great design to have. It also really helps to make sure that combat and the gameplay never gets truly stale. There were a few moments, one level in particular, where you have to climb this really tall elevator to get to one of the bosses, that I started thinking to myself, alright, it's getting a little bit long, we could pace this to get to the next portion, please, or just get to the boss fight. And just like that, I was around the corner and it ended, so really great timing there, actually. And then a few times during combat, I did feel as though, alright, face these enemies, let's go fight these robots one more time, and then bam, they throw in a new enemy to the mix to really shake things up and really change how the combat flowed, which made everything feel fresh. Outside of combat, there is an upgrade system, as I mentioned before, where you can buy new chips that help augment you or your allies' skills, which is pretty useful. You can get new combos and new special powers. So throughout combat, you'll charge up this meter that lets you unleash a very powerful attack on your enemies, and you could buy different variations of those. You also get to hang out at this little hangout with you and your companions, and you could chat with them and see their perspectives on the world, on the situation, on how things are going, which was a lot of fun to dive deeper into these characters the game really made me care quite a lot about. And then there's also tons, and I mean tons, of challenges to go through, and doing each of these challenges allows you to unlock a new piece of this large mural that's being made on the wall. So if you really like that type of stuff, there's plenty of things that you can go back and do throughout the game. And there's also, in each level, there's a ton of exploration to be had. Not only for finding fun Easter eggs, such as, can you find the HR Sebastian robot throughout the levels? But additionally, there's some graffiti tags that you can try to go find. There's definitely secrets to get new abilities. For example, you could try to find some small upgrades that'll give boosts to things such as your health if you collect 4 of them, which can be found in the world. So plenty of hidden secrets to go around and find as you go through each of the levels. So that brings us to the visual style of the game, the art and the music. Let's start off with the art. It speaks for itself. There's very few games that are as beautifully stylized as Hi-Fi Rush is. From the comic book pop art cel-shaded style that just exudes personality, it's one of the most gorgeous experiences to play on a modern console, despite not aiming for these hyper-realistic graphics. It's exactly what I think a lot of gamers will really appreciate. There's a whole mess of ways to do very good visuals in games, and a creative art style such as the one that's presented in Hi-Fi Rush is absolutely one of them. It genuinely felt as though you could sit down and watch this like a film, like something you'd see in Into the Spider-Verse. It was that level of quality. In fact, I would absolutely not shrug my head to some kind of film done with this art style set in the universe that Hi-Fi Rush takes place in.
I am Zonzo. Yeah, I know. Zonzo, head of R&D. Look, dude, I'm not gonna serenade you.
They call you a defect, but I find your enhancements enticing. I must learn more about it.
We've tested enough, don't you think?
I saw your reflexes, but how about your endurance? Let's give it a go, go, go! But enough talk. Have at you!
Because of how dynamic and lively and expressive every single element was in the composition of many of these scenes. Little cues that were done in the visuals as well that are easy to miss. When you're swinging your axe or double jumping and you see that comic book style whoosh go by as you're making those movements and those actions was a delightful charm. And if you really sit down to try to look at all the visual elements that are around you, you'll be in for quite a surprise. And I think that even people who normally don't appreciate this kind of thing can find something very special here. And then we get to the sound and the music. The music has some fantastic licensed artists, but I'm also happy to say that there is a streamer mode if you plan on showing this off to your friends online over Twitch or on YouTube. So absolutely, Bethesda has your back and Tango has your back with plenty of first-party music, which is very good. And in some instances, I actually thought worked better than the licensed music that was done, which I never feel like is the case with this sort of thing. But every single thing that you can do in Hi-Fi Rush is coordinated with some kind of musical element, whether it's jumping, swinging your guitar axe, if it's doing something like hitting a machine or an enemy or just an object in the environment, because every single thing moves to the beat. As you play Hi-Fi Rush, you start to add your own music to this wonderful, wonderful creative world. And little audio elements too, whether it's the simple tapping of Chai's foot as he keeps himself on the beat, tapping the ground, which will respond to the different types of grounds that you're on. A very unnecessary detail. They could have just had a generic tapping noise. At the end of the day, from the sound to the music to the art style to the level design to the characters and the writing, you can tell that every inch of this game was made with love. Also, I hinted at it here and there, but genuinely hysterical. 2 thumbs up to you, because I was laughing for almost the entire way through the game. Didn't grow old at all. And I will say, I've seen some comments about the game length being short here and there. Honestly, just seems like people who are trying to find problems with the game was not an issue at all. In fact, if anything, I thought it worked perfectly for this game. Did not overstay its welcome for a second. So that brings us to the final verdict for Hi-Fi Rush, and that is going to be a 10 out of 10. The very first on this channel, 10 out of 10, and it absolutely deserves it. It is one of the most fun games that I have played in years. It has a simple level of charm that's impossible to overlook, and I applaud Tango for making this game. They said that they did not want to be recognized for a single IP or for a single style of game, which was the survival horror genre and the thriller, but they've absolutely achieved that with Hi-Fi Rush. And while I do admittedly really hope that we could see a return to the Evil Within, because I think a lot of fans really love that universe, myself included, at least for the time being, this was one of the best surprises that we could have had early in this year. So do yourself a favor, go out and try Hi-Fi Rush, play it for yourselves, experience it, experience the game. There's so much to love, and I cannot wait to see what's next from Tango Gameworks. Thank you everybody for tuning in to this review, and as always, I hope to see you all next time. So long, everybody.